The most dangerous thing about a liar isn't the lie itself, it is the confidence with which they serve it to you over breakfast. Caleb was currently smiling at me, buttering his toast with the steady hands of a surgeon, talking about our future summer vacation. I watched him, sipping my coffee, and thought about the $47,000 hidden in his secret account, and the fact that his summer plans didn't include me at all. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I have always found comfort in the absolute certainty of numbers. In my line of work as a senior forensic accountant for a mid-sized firm in downtown Portland, numbers are the only things that don't lie to you. People lie. CEOs lie about their overhead. Managers lie about their petty cash. But the numbers, if you stare at them long enough, always confess. It was 2:15 on a Tuesday afternoon when my own personal audit began. I was staring at a spreadsheet that refused to balance, a chaotic jumble of figures from a client who owned 3 car washes and apparently had a gambling problem, when my personal cell phone buzzed against the mahogany veneer of my desk. I glanced down. It was my cousin, Lydia. I almost didn't answer. Lydia is the kind of person who calls you in the middle of the workday to tell you that her horoscope predicted a minor catastrophe, or that she found a sweater on sale that was simply life-changing. I loved her, but her definition of an emergency usually involved a broken acrylic nail. I let it buzz 3 times. My finger hovered over the decline button. I needed to finish this reconciliation before my boss, Margaret, did her 3 o'clock rounds. Margaret had the eyes of a hawk and the patience of a starving one, but the phone kept buzzing. It was persistent, angry almost. I sighed, saved my spreadsheet, and picked it up. "Meredith, are you sitting down?" Lydia's voice was breathless, tight, stripping away the usual bubbly veneer. "I am at work, Lydia," I said, keeping my voice low, cradling the phone between my shoulder and ear as I organized a stack of receipts. "So, yes, I am sitting in my ergonomic chair. What is it? Did you buy another dog?" "I am serious, Mare. You need to listen to me." Something in her tone made my hand freeze over the stapler. The air in my office, usually smelling faintly of stale coffee and toner, suddenly felt very thin. "I am listening," I said. "I am in the Pearl District," Lydia said, her words rushing out like water from a burst pipe. "I was walking past that old industrial complex on 10th, the one they converted into artist lofts, and I saw Caleb." I frowned. My brain tried to process this data point and rejected it. "That is impossible. Caleb is at a regional sales conference in Bellevue. He left this morning." I packed his blue tie. "He is not in Bellevue, Mare," Lydia said, and her voice dropped to a whisper that sounded like a scream. "He is walking into a building called the Darkroom. It is one of those co-op photography studios. And he wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing jeans and that leather jacket you hate." I stared at the calendar on my wall. Tuesday, October 17th. The square for today had Caleb Seattle Trip written in his neat, blocky handwriting. "Maybe the conference got moved," I said, though the excuse tasted like ash in my mouth. "Maybe he stopped by to, I don't know, buy art. Caleb likes photography." "He has a key, Meredith." The silence that followed stretched out, elastic and snapping. "What?" I whispered. "I watched him take a key out of his pocket and unlock the front door," Lydia said. "He looked around before he went in, like he was checking for traffic, or witnesses. And Meredith?" "Tell me," I said. My stomach was currently doing a slow, sickening roll, like a ship listing in a storm. "He wasn't alone." I closed my eyes. I saw Caleb's face this morning. He had kissed my forehead. He had told me the traffic to Seattle was going to be a nightmare. He had grabbed his travel mug. "Who was he with?" I asked. "I couldn't see the face clearly at first," Lydia said, "but I know the car. It is parked right out front, the black SUV with the cracked bumper sticker, the one Brian drives." My breath hitched. Brian. My brother-in-law, my sister Tara's husband. Lydia, I said, my voice shaking now. Brian is at work. He works at the bank. He can't be at a photography studio in the middle of the day. The car is here, Lydia insisted, and the guy walking in with Caleb had that same weird, loping walk Brian has. They went in together. They looked comfortable. Comfortable. The word hung in the air. Send me the address, I said. Myrrh, what are you going to do? Send me the address, Lydia. I hung up the phone before she could ask me any more questions. I sat there for exactly 10 seconds. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. My computer screen was still open to the car wash audit. The numbers stared back at me, orderly, logical, solvable. My life, it seemed, was none of those things. I stood up. I walked to Margaret's office. My legs felt heavy, like I was wading through waist-deep water. Margaret? I said, leaning into her doorway. She looked up over her spectacles. You haven't finished the Henderson file yet, Meredith. I have a dental emergency. I lied. The words tumbled out with surprising ease. My crown cracked. The pain is blinding. I need to go. Margaret sighed, looking at her watch. Fine. But have the file on my desk by 8 tomorrow morning, and bring me a receipt from the dentist, Meredith. Corporate is cracking down on sick time. Of course, I said. I always keep my receipts. I walked out of the office, grabbed my purse, and didn't look back. I felt like I was stealing my own time. The drive from my office to the Pearl District should have taken 10 minutes. In the mid-afternoon Portland drizzle, it took 23. Every red light felt like a personal insult. I gripped the steering wheel of my sedan until my knuckles turned white, the leather biting into my palms. The windshield wipers beat out a rhythm. Thwack hiss, that sounded suspiciously like liar, 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 liar. My mind, usually a well-oiled machine of logic and categorization, was misfiring. It was spinning out scenarios, each one more desperate than the last. Maybe they were planning a surprise party. That had to be it. Tara's baby shower was coming up, wasn't it? No, that was months away. Maybe a surprise for me? Our 10th anniversary had been 5 days ago. We had celebrated. We went to that Italian place with the overpriced risotto. Caleb had given me a necklace. He had held my hand across the table and told me he couldn't imagine life without me. He has a key, Lydia had said. Why would my husband have a key to a photography studio? Caleb was a sales director for a pharmaceutical logistics company. His hobbies included watching football and complaining about the cost of lawn fertilizer. He didn't take photos. He barely knew how to use the portrait mode on his iPhone. And Brian. I thought about Brian, my sister's husband, the man who made terrible dad jokes and wore cargo shorts unironically. Brian, who was currently renovating a nursery because my sister was 5 months pregnant with their 3rd child. If Brian was there, maybe they were building something? A crib? In a photography studio? I forced myself to breathe. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 4 counts. It was a technique I used when the IRS audits got particularly aggressive. It wasn't working. The rain intensified, blurring the world into streaks of gray and slate. I turned onto 10th Avenue. My eyes scanned the street, desperate for Lydia to be wrong. I wanted her to be crazy. I wanted her to be hallucinating. I would pay for her therapy myself if it meant she was hallucinating. But there it was. The building was an old brick monstrosity, repurposed into creative spaces for people who like to pay too much rent to smell like turpentine. And parked right in front, tucked between a dumpster and a fire hydrant, was the black SUV. I slowed down as I passed it. I saw the bumper sticker on the back window. My child is an honor student at Westview Elementary. It was peeling at the corner. It was Brian's car. I pulled into a spot 3 cars down. I put the car in park, but I didn't turn off the engine. I just sat there. The vibration of the engine hummed through the seat. I felt nauseous. A sour, hot feeling rose in the back of my throat. This wasn't a surprise party. You don't hide a surprise party in a rented industrial loft on a Tuesday afternoon while pretending to be in another city. I looked at my phone. 2:40 in the afternoon. Caleb had texted me at noon. Just checked into the hotel. Miss you already. He was 3 blocks away from me. I turned off the car. The silence rushed in, loud and heavy. I opened the door and stepped out into the rain. I didn't have an umbrella. I didn't care. The cold water hitting my face felt grounding. It was real. This was happening. I crossed the street, dodging a cyclist who shouted something angry at me. I didn't hear him. My focus was narrowed down to a single point, the rusted metal door of the building. I stopped by Brian's SUV. I couldn't help myself. I peered into the passenger window. The back seat was filled with the debris of family life, a car seat base, a stray stuffed animal, a wrapper from a granola bar. But on the front passenger seat, there was something else. 2 coffee cups, the expensive kind from the artisanal roaster downtown. I stared at them. 2 cups. Steaming slightly? No, the windows were fogged. I couldn't tell. But they were there. Evidence of a shared journey. Evidence of a morning spent together, not at a bank and not on the highway to Seattle. I walked to the building's entrance. There was a row of buzzers, old and yellowed plastic buttons that looked like they hadn't been cleaned since the 90s. I scanned the names. Unit 1, Weaver. Unit 2, Collective. Unit 3, the Darkroom. I pressed the buzzer for Unit 3. I waited. Nothing. No static, no voice, no buzz. I pressed it again, harder this time, holding it down for a solid 5 seconds. Come on, Caleb. Answer. Tell me you're picking up prints for a client. Tell me anything. Silence. I stepped back, looking up at the windows. They were painted over or covered with heavy blackout curtains. Of course, it was a dark room. They needed darkness. They won't hear you. I jumped, spinning around. A man was standing near the alleyway entrance, dragging a heavy recycling bin. He wore gray coveralls and looked like he was carved out of granite and cigarette smoke. The buzzer, he said, gesturing with his chin. It's disconnected in 3. Tenants asked for privacy. I need to get in, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, high and brittle. My husband, he's in there. He has my medication. It's an emergency. The lie came out smoothly. I was getting good at this. The man looked me up and down. He took in my sensible office heels, my rain-soaked blazer, the sheer panic radiating off me like heat waves. He didn't see a threat. He saw a desperate woman. Husband, huh? He grunted. The tall guy? Or the other one? The world tilted slightly to the left. The tall one, I said. Caleb. Yeah, he's in there. See him come and go all hours. Pays his rent in cash, always on time. Good tenant. Cash. Please, I said. I really need to get in. He shrugged, pulling a keyring from his belt. Not supposed to let people in, but you look like you're about to faint, lady. He walked over and keyed the lock. The buzzer gave a loud, angry clack, and the door popped open. 3rd floor, he said. End of the hall. Door with the red stripe. Thank you, I whispered. I slipped inside before he could change his mind. The lobby smelled of old paper and dust. I walked to the stairs. I didn't take the elevator. I needed the physical exertion. I needed to burn off the adrenaline that was flooding my system, making my hands shake so hard I had to ball them into fists. 1 flight, 2 flights, 3 flights. I stood in the 3rd floor hallway. It was dimly lit, the floorboards creaking under my feet. The air here smelled sharper, vinegar and chemicals, developer fluid. I walked down the hall. My footsteps echoed, too loud, too heavy. I tried to walk on the balls of my feet. There it was, the door with the red stripe. I stood in front of it. I could hear music coming from inside. Soft jazz. Caleb hated jazz. He called it elevator music with anxiety. But there it was, playing softly. And then a laugh. It was a low, rumbling laugh. I knew that laugh. I had heard it at Christmas dinners. I had heard it at birthday parties. It was Brian. And then another voice, higher, answering. Caleb. They weren't arguing. They weren't building furniture. They weren't working. They sounded relaxed. They sounded happy. I reached for the doorknob. My hand hovered there. I knew that the moment I turned this knob, my life as I knew it was over. The version of Meredith who had a loyal husband and a boring, stable marriage would cease to exist. I closed my eyes. I thought about the spreadsheet. I thought about the numbers. Show me the truth. I turned the knob. It was unlocked. I pushed the door open. The room was bathed in a safe light red glow, customary for a dark room, but brighter than necessary, more atmospheric than functional. The smell of chemicals was overwhelming, acetic acid and fixer, but underneath it, I smelled something else. Fresh coffee and cologne, specifically Santal 33 South, the expensive cologne I had bought Caleb for his birthday. The space was large, an industrial loft with high ceilings. Along one wall there were developing trays and enlargers, looking dusty and unused. But in the center of the room, the setup was different. There was a leather couch, a nice one. Distressed brown leather, probably Italian. A low coffee table was cluttered with the debris of intimacy. The 2 coffee cups I had seen earlier, a plate with crumbs from a pastry, a stack of magazines. And there were the men. Caleb was sitting on the couch, his legs stretched out, his feet resting on the table. He was wearing the jeans Lydia had described. He held a mug in one hand, and his other arm was draped across the back of the sofa. Brian was sitting next to him, not on the other end of the couch. Next to him. Their shoulders were touching. Brian's head was tilted back, laughing at something Caleb had just said. For a second, nobody moved. It was like a tableau in a museum. The betrayal. Oil on canvas. Then the door clicked shut behind me. Caleb's head snapped up. I watched the blood drain from his face. It was instantaneous. In the red light, his skin turned a ghostly, waxen gray. His eyes went wide, enormous, trying to process the impossibility of my presence. Meredith? His voice cracked. It was a high, pitiful sound. Brian jumped up so fast he knocked the coffee table with his shin. The mugs rattled violently. He stood there, hands fluttering uselessly in front of him, looking like a deer staring down the headlights of a semi-truck. Meredith, Brian stammered. Hey, hi, what are you? I didn't speak. I couldn't. My brain was trying to reconcile the scene. My husband, my brother-in-law, in a red room, on a leather couch, on a Tuesday. It's not what it looks like, Caleb said. I let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. It's not? Because it looks like you are skipping your work trip to hang out in a romantic red-lit dungeon with my sister's husband. I walked further into the room. My legs felt stiff, mechanical. We were working, Brian said. He gestured vaguely at the dusty enlargers. Photography. Caleb is getting into photography. I'm teaching him. Photography, I repeated. I looked at the table. There were no cameras. There were no negatives. There was only the coffee and a phone. Caleb's phone. It was sitting on the cushion between where they had been sitting. Face up. The screen lit up with a notification. I didn't look at Caleb. I looked at the phone. You're teaching him photography, I said, my voice eerily calm. Is that why you didn't tell me? Is that why you pretended to go to Seattle? I wanted to surprise you, Caleb said. He stood up slowly, holding his hands out, palms up, the universal gesture of a man trying to calm a wild animal. Honey, you're shaking. You look hysterical. Just take a breath. Toxic benevolence. There it was. Don't tell me to breathe, I snapped. And don't tell me I look hysterical. I look like a woman who just caught her husband in a lie. It's just a hobby, Mare, Caleb said, his voice dropping to that smooth, reasonable tone he used when he was negotiating a contract. I was embarrassed. I didn't want you to know until I was good at it. Brian has been helping me. We just lost track of time." "You have a key," I said. "Lydia saw you use a key. You don't get a key for a drop-in lesson, Caleb." "You rent the space." Caleb flinched, a micro-reaction. His left eye twitched. I sublet it," he admitted. "Cheap. It was a steal, really." "How much?" I asked. "What?" "How much is the rent, Caleb? I'm an accountant. I want to know the numbers." "It doesn't matter," he said quickly. "It matters to me," I said. I took another step toward the couch, toward the phone. "Because we have a joint account, and I track every penny. So unless you are paying for this with magic beans, you are hiding money." Caleb's eyes darted to the phone on the cushion, then back to me. He realized his mistake instantly. He lunged for it. I was faster. Or maybe I was just fueled by a level of rage that transcends physics. I dove for the couch, my hand closing around the cool glass of his iPhone just as his fingers brushed my wrist. I snatched it back, clutching it to my chest, scrambling backward until I hit the wall. "Meredith, give me the phone," Caleb said. His voice wasn't soft anymore. It was hard, panicked. "Why?" I panted, holding the phone up. "If it's just photography, let me see the photos. Show me your portfolio, Caleb." "Privacy," Brian squeaked. "It's artistic privacy." "Shut up, Brian," I said without looking at him. "You are currently playing the supporting role in your own funeral. Be quiet." I looked down at the screen. It was locked. Face ID required. I held it out toward Caleb. "Unlock it." He took a step back, turning his face away. "No, you are violating my trust, Meredith. I am not going to validate this paranoia." "Paranoia?" I screamed. "I found you in a secret room with my brother-in-law. Unlock the phone." "No." I looked at the screen. Enter passcode. 6 digits. I knew his passcode. It was his birthday. I typed it in. 082488. The screen shook. Incorrect passcode. My stomach dropped. He had changed it. He never changed his passwords. He still used password 123 for his email. "You changed it," I said, looking up at him. "When did you change it?" Caleb crossed his arms. He looked smug now. He thought he had won. The fortress was secure. "A while ago. Cybersecurity, Mur. You're always telling me to be safer." I tried our anniversary. 101215. Incorrect passcode. I tried the last 4 digits of his social plus his birth year. Incorrect passcode. iPhone unavailable for 1 minute. "Give it up, Meredith," Caleb said, stepping closer. "Give me the phone. We'll go home. We'll talk about this like adults. I'll explain everything, but you need to stop acting like a crazy person." I looked at the timer counting down on the screen. 58 seconds. I looked at Caleb. He was looming over me, using his height to intimidate. He thought I was weak. He thought I was the dutiful wife who filed the taxes and made the pot roasts and believed the lies. But he forgot one thing. I handled the bills. I handled the home security system. I handled the mundane, boring details of our life that he deemed beneath him. And 3 months ago, when we installed the new alarm system, he had complained that he couldn't remember the code I picked. So he asked me to change it to something easy for him to remember. I looked at Brian. Brian was sweating. He was wiping his hands on his cargo shorts. I looked back at Caleb. "You're right," I said softly. "I'm being crazy." Caleb's shoulders relaxed. "Exactly. Come on, honey, give it here." He reached out his hand. I waited. 10 seconds left on the lockout. "Just a second," I said. "Let me just wipe it off. I got my wet hands on it." I wiped the screen on my blazer. The timer hit 0. I didn't hand it to him. I typed in the code. Not a birthday, not an anniversary. I typed in the numbers corresponding to the word BOYD. Brian's last name. 269300. Wait, no, 6 digits. Maybe just BRIAN Wanand? No. Think. What did he change the house alarm to? He had said, "Make it something important to me." I had thought he meant our wedding date. He said no. I looked at Brian. I looked at the way they were standing. I typed in Brian's birthday. I knew it because I bought him a gift card every year. 031585. The phone unlocked. The home screen wasn't a picture of me. It wasn't a picture of us. It was a picture of Caleb and Brian, shirtless, on a boat somewhere. The sun was shining. They were laughing. Caleb lunged. "Meredith, don't!" I sidestepped him, adrenaline sharpening my movements. I opened the Messages app. The top thread was pinned. The contact name wasn't Brian. It was Accountant. I tapped it. The messages didn't scroll. They cascaded. I stood with my back to the corner of the room, phone raised like a shield, scrolling with my thumb while Caleb and Brian stood 10 feet away, paralyzed by the realization that the nuclear bomb had just detonated. "Meredith, stop!" Caleb pleaded. His voice was thin, desperate. "Don't read them, please. Whatever you think you see, it's out of context." Out of context. I read the most recent message sent 2 hours ago. "Caleb, almost there. Traffic is hell. Can't wait to be in our space. Need your hands on me." "Brian, coffee is ready and the red light is on." I felt the bile rise in my throat. I swallowed it down. I forced myself to keep scrolling. I needed the scope. I needed the magnitude. October 10th. "Caleb, she suspects nothing. Dinner was excruciating. I just wanted to be with you." "Brian, hang in there. 37 days until the plan." "The plan? What plan?" I scrolled back further. September, August, July. Photos. Oh God, the photos. Selfies in bed. Not our bed. A hotel bed. White linens. Room service trays. Receipts sent back and forth. "Caleb, just transferred the cash to the secret account. Another 2,000. We are getting closer to the goal." "Brian, Tara's nagging me about the crib. I feel bad, but then I remember Seattle. We are going to be so free, Cal." I looked up. My vision was blurry. I blinked, and a tear rolled down my cheek. I didn't wipe it away. "Seattle?" I asked. My voice was dead. "You're moving to Seattle?" Caleb flinched. No, it's just a pipe dream, a fantasy. We were just talking." "You have a savings goal," I said, glancing back at the screen. "You have a timeline. 37 days. I did the math instantly. 37 days from October 10th. "Thanksgiving," I whispered. "You were going to leave me on Thanksgiving?" "No," Caleb shouted. "No, Meredith, listen. I was confused. I am confused. Brian and we just connected. It wasn't planned. It just happened. It just happened." I laughed, a sharp, jagged sound. "You have a shared bank account. You have a rented apartment. You have a burner phone contact name. This didn't happen, Caleb. You built this. You engineered this." I looked at Brian. He was pale, leaning against the wall for support. "Does Tara know?" I asked him. Brian shook his head rapidly. "No, God, no. You can't tell her, Meredith. Please, the baby, her blood pressure. The doctor said stress could be dangerous." I stared at him. The audacity was breathtaking. "You are worried about her blood pressure?" I asked, stepping forward. "You are sleeping with her brother-in-law in a red room while she is painting a nursery for your child, and you are worried about her blood pressure." "It would kill her," Brian whispered. "Please, just let us explain. Let us figure this out. Don't tell her yet." I looked at the phone in my hand. I looked at the thread. 8 months of history. 8 months of lies. I hit the side button, locking the screen. I slipped the phone into my pocket. "You're right," I said. Caleb exhaled a massive rush of air. "Okay, good. Thank you, Mer. Thank you for being rational. We can work this out. "I'm keeping the phone," I said. Caleb froze. "What?" "I'm keeping the phone. As collateral." "You can't take my phone," Caleb said, stepping forward again. "I need it for work." "Tell your boss you lost it," I said. "Tell him it fell in the river. I don't care." I walked toward the door. I had to walk right past them. It took every ounce of will I possessed not to scream, not to claw at their faces, not to burn this entire building to the ground. But I was an accountant. I was methodical, and I knew that an emotional explosion now would waste the advantage I just gained. "Where are you going?" Caleb asked, panic rising in his voice again. "I'm going home," I said. "I'm going to take a shower. And then I'm going to think." "Meredith, wait," Brian said. He reached out a hand. I stopped. I didn't look at him. I just spoke to the wall. "If you follow me," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, "if you call me, if you show up at the house tonight, I will forward every single photo on this device to your mother, Brian, and then I will send them to the church deacon board." I heard Brian gasp. He was a deacon's son. He knew what that meant. "We won't follow you," Caleb said quickly. "We'll give you space. Just, please don't do anything rash." I opened the door. The hallway air felt cooler, cleaner. "I'm not the one who did something rash, Caleb," I said. "I'm just the one calculating the damages." I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently with a soft click that sounded final. As I walked down the hallway, clutching the phone in my pocket like a grenade, I realized my hands had stopped shaking. The panic was gone. In its place was something else. Something cold and hard and very, very sharp. I took out my own phone. I dialed a number. "Tara?" I said when she answered. "Hey, Mur, what's up? I'm just looking at swatches for the crib bedding." "I need to come over," I said. "Put the swatches away. We have work to do." I didn't drive straight to Tara's. I couldn't. I was a biological hazard of rage and grief, and you don't bring that into a house where a woman is nesting. I pulled into the parking lot of a Target 3 miles away. It was neutral ground. It was safe. I parked between a minivan and a cart return stall, turned off the engine, and looked at the phone in my lap. It felt heavy, like it was made of lead. My hands were trembling again, a fine, high-frequency vibration that made it hard to unlock the screen. I typed in the code, 031585, and the device opened. I needed to know the extent of the damage. I needed to know if this was a fling, a midlife crisis, or a demolition. I opened the Photos app first. The first image was mundane, a picture of a latte art heart. Timestamp. This morning, 8:30. I remembered where I was at 8:30. I was rushing to a client meeting, spilling coffee on my blouse. Caleb was drinking artisanal lattes with my brother-in-law. I swiped left, a selfie. The two of them in hiking gear. The background was blurry, but I recognized the trail. Angel's Rest. I stared at the date, June 12th. I closed my eyes, my head falling back against the headrest. June 12th. That was the weekend Brian told Tara he was going on a men's retreat with his church group. And Caleb had told me he was helping his dad fix a roof in Salem. I had spent that entire weekend stripping wallpaper in our guest room, alone. I remembered texting Caleb, complaining about the heat, about the glue fumes. He had texted back, "Stay hydrated, babe. Almost done here." "Dad says hi." "Dad says hi," I whispered to the empty car. I swiped again. Hotel room, Seattle. The timestamp was from August. The room was luxurious. King bed. A bottle of champagne on the nightstand. I zoomed in on the champagne bottle. Dom Perignon. We drank sparkling wine from Costco on our anniversary. I went back to the messages. I needed to see the money. I was an accountant. The emotions were overwhelming, blinding me, but the math would ground me. I searched the message history for the $ symbol. The results populated instantly. Caleb. Transferring $500 for the account. Caleb. Bonus came in. Put $2,000 in the fund. Brian. I can squeeze $300 this week. Tara wants new strollers, but I told her we need to budget. I read that last one twice. Tara wants new strollers, but I told her we need to budget. My sister was buying secondhand clothes off Facebook Marketplace because she was terrified of their finances. She was stressing about the cost of diapers, and Brian was siphoning off hundreds of dollars a week to fund champagne and hotel rooms. I felt a wave of nausea so violent I had to roll down the window and gulp in the cold, wet air. "You monsters!" I hissed. "You absolute mediocrity-loving monsters!" I scrolled further back. I found a shared note they had edited back and forth. It was titled The Exit. I opened it. Phase 1, accumulation, target 50,000. Phase 2, the separation, wait until Feber's post-birth chaos. Phase 3, Seattle, apartment hunting link attached. February. They were waiting for Tara to give birth. They were waiting for the baby to come, for the chaos of a newborn to distract us, and then they were going to slip away in the night like thieves. I looked at the date today. October 17th. Tara was due in early February. They had it all mapped out. I put the phone down on the passenger seat. I wiped my face. I looked in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, rimmed with dark circles. I looked like a ghost. "Okay," I said to my reflection. "Okay, Meredith, you have the data. Now you have to deliver the audit report." I put the car in gear. Tara lived in a craftsman bungalow in the Irvington neighborhood. It was the kind of house that looked like it was made of gingerbread and good intentions. There was a wreath on the door made of autumn leaves. There were pumpkins on the porch steps, arranged by size. It was aggressively wholesome. I pulled into the driveway behind Tara's Subaru. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Thump, thump, thump. I was about to walk into that house and burn it down. Not literally, but effectively. I was holding a grenade in my pocket, and I was about to pull the pin and toss it into her living room. I sat in the car for a full minute. I thought about turning around. I could handle this myself. I could confront Caleb, demand the divorce, force him to leave and never tell Tara. I could let her have her baby in peace. I could let her live in the illusion for a few more months. But then I thought about the text message. Tara wants new strollers, but I told her we need to budget. Brian was stealing from his own children. He was gaslighting her about their financial stability while hoarding cash for his escape. If I didn't tell her, I was an accomplice. If I didn't tell her, she would be blindsided in February with a newborn and an empty bank account. I opened the car door. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy and damp. I walked up the porch steps. I rang the doorbell. I heard footsteps inside, heavy, waddling footsteps. The door opened. Tara stood there, one hand on her lower back, the other holding a mug of herbal tea. She was wearing oversized gray sweatpants and a t-shirt that said "baby loading." Her face was flushed, happy. "Myrrh," she beamed. "I thought you were at work. Did you sneak out? Margaret is going to kill you." She ushered me in. The house smelled of cinnamon and vanilla. It smelled like safety. "I had a dentist appointment," I said. My voice was raspy. Tara stopped. She looked at me, really looked at me. The smile faded from her face, replaced by a sudden, sharp concern. "Meredith," she said, "you look terrible. What's wrong? Is it Mom? Is it Dad?" "No," I said. "Mom and Dad are fine." "Then what?" She reached out and touched my arm. Her hand was warm. "Did something happen with Caleb?" I flinched. The name felt like a physical blow. "We need to sit down," I said. Tara's eyes went wide. She put the mug down on the entry table with a clatter. "You're scaring me. Are you sick?" "No," I said. "Please, just sit down." We walked into the living room. The coffee table was covered in fabric swatches, pastels, neutrals, soft textures. The television was paused on a parenting vlog. Tara sat on the edge of the sofa, her hands instinctively going to her belly, protecting the life inside. "Tell me," she whispered. I sat on the ottoman across from her. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the phone. "Do you recognize this?" I asked. Tara squinted. "That's Caleb's phone, the Spider-Man case. Why do you have Caleb's phone?" Because I took it from him, I said, about 40 minutes ago. Where is he? He's at a photography studio on 10th Avenue, I said. I kept my voice steady, flat, clinical. He's there with Brian. Tara frowned, confused. Brian? Brian is at the bank. He texted me an hour ago complaining about a meeting. Brian lied, I said. Why would he lie about... Wait. Tara laughed, a nervous, fluttering sound. Are they planning something? Is this about the shower? Meredith, if you ruin the surprise. It's not a shower, Tara. I leaned forward. I needed her to look at me. I needed to anchor her before the wave hit. I went inside the studio, I said. It was set up like a living room. There were candles. There was wine. They weren't working. Tara stared at me. Her brain was rejecting the information. It was sliding off her like water off oil. I don't understand, she said. You mean they were hanging out, skipping work? Tara, I said softly, they are having an affair. The silence that followed was absolute. The clock on the mantel ticked. Tick, tick, tick. That's not funny, Tara said. Her voice was hard now. That is a sick joke, Meredith. It's not a joke. Brian is my husband, she said, her voice rising. We are having a baby. He loves me. He just painted the nursery yesterday. He built the crib. I know, I said. And while he was building the crib, he was texting Caleb about how much he wanted to be in Seattle with him. Stop it, Tara shouted. She stood up, swaying slightly. Stop saying that. Why are you doing this? I didn't argue. I didn't try to convince her with words. I unlocked the phone. I opened the photo gallery. I found the picture from the hotel room, the one with them in the bathrobes. I held the phone out to her. Look, I said. I don't want to look. You have to look, Tara. You have to know. She looked. I watched her face. I watched the color drain out of it until she was the color of old paper. I watched her eyes widen, then fill with tears, then go completely empty. She made a sound. It wasn't a scream. It was a low, guttural whimper, like an animal that had been kicked. She sat back down heavily. The cushions exhaled. That's Brian, she whispered. That's his shoulder tattoo, the Celtic knot. Yes, I said. And that's Caleb. Yes. She took the phone from me. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped it. She scrolled. She saw the texts. She saw the dates. February, she choked out. They were leaving in February. Yes. She looked up at me. Her eyes were swimming in tears, but underneath the sorrow, there was something else. A spark of pure, unadulterated fury. My baby, she said. He was going to leave his daughter. He stole from her too, I said. The stroller money, the budget cuts. He was funneling it into a secret account. Tara gasped. She clutched her belly, doubling over. Tara, I jumped up. Are you okay? Is it the baby? I'm fine, she wheezed, sitting up. I'm going to be sick. She ran to the bathroom. I heard the door slam, then the sound of retching. I stood in the middle of her living room, surrounded by pastel swatches, listening to my sister vomit up her life as she knew it. 10 minutes later, Tara was sitting on the couch with a wet washcloth on her forehead. She hadn't spoken since she came out of the bathroom. She was just staring at the wall, one hand rubbing her belly in frantic circles. Then, we heard tires screeching in the driveway. I walked to the window. I pulled back the curtain. Brian's black SUV had pulled up onto the grass, missing the driveway entirely. Caleb was in the passenger seat. They were scrambling out of the car before the engine had even stopped rolling. They're here, I said. Tara sat up. She pulled the washcloth off her head. She looked at the door. Don't let them in, she said. I won't. I walked to the front door. I opened it and stepped out onto the porch, closing the door firmly behind me. I crossed my arms. Brian was running up the walk, his face a mask of panic. Caleb was right behind him, looking more composed but still pale. Tara! Brian yelled. Tara, please! Stop right there, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. They stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. Meredith, Caleb said, stepping in front of Brian. He put on his sales director face, the reasonable face. Meredith, look, we need to de-escalate this. You took my property. You ran off. We were worried about you. Worried about me? I laughed. You tracked my phone, didn't you? We just want to talk, Brian pleaded. He looked at the door. Is she in there? Did you tell her? Please, God, tell me you didn't tell her. She knows, Brian, I said. She saw the photos. She saw the texts about the strollers. Brian flinched like I had slapped him. He put his hands over his face. Oh my God, oh my God. You need to let us see her, Caleb said, taking a step up the stairs. Meredith, step aside. This is a marriage matter. It's between us and our wives. You are interfering. I am the firewall, Caleb, I said, and you are the virus. You are not coming in. She's my wife, Brian shouted, dropping his hands. She's pregnant with my child. You can't keep me from her. Watch me. Meredith, Caleb said, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. I am your husband. I am telling you to move. He took another step. He was 2 feet away from me. He was taller than me, broader. He used to make me feel safe. Now he just looked like a threat. If you take one more step, a voice said from behind me. I turned. Tara was standing in the doorway. She was holding onto the doorframe for support. She looked wrecked. Her eyes were puffy, her hair messy, but she was standing. Tara, Brian sobbed. He actually sobbed. Honey, please, let me explain. It was a mistake. I was confused. Confused, Tara repeated. Her voice was flat, dead. You were confused for 8 months? You were confused in Seattle? I love you, Brian said. I love our family. I was scared. The baby. The pressure. Don't you dare, Tara hissed. Don't you dare blame this baby. Tara, be reasonable, Caleb said. He tried to smile. It was grotesque. We know this looks bad, but marriages go through rough patches. We can fix this. We just need to sit down, calmly, and... Get off my porch, Tara said. What? Get off my porch. Get off my lawn. Get out of my sight. Tara, you're being emotional, Caleb said. Think about the kids. Think about the scandal. Do you want everyone to know? Tara looked at Caleb. Then she looked at Brian. I don't care who knows, she said. I want you gone, both of you. If you are not gone in 10 seconds, I am calling the police, and then I am calling your father, Brian. Brian went white. His father, Sterling, was the one person he feared more than God. No, Brian whispered. Don't call Dad, please. 10, Tara counted. 9. Tara, stop, Caleb snapped. You're being hysterical. 8, 7. Let's go, Brian said, grabbing Caleb's arm. Caleb, let's go. She'll do it. She's crazy. I'm not leaving my house, Caleb said, planting his feet. This isn't your house, I shouted. This is Tara's house. Your house is across town, and guess what? You're not welcome there either. 5, Tara said. She pulled her phone out of her pocket. 4. Caleb looked at Tara. He saw the phone. He calculated the odds. Fine, he spat. Fine, we'll leave. We'll give you time to cool down. Cool down, I muttered. We're just warming up. Caleb pointed a finger at me. I want my phone back, Meredith. Evidence, I said. I'll give it to my lawyer. You are stealing, Caleb said. Sue me, I said. Caleb glared at me with pure hatred. It was startling to see. The mask was completely gone. Come on, Brian said, dragging him toward the car. We stood on the porch and watched them retreat. We watched them get into the black SUV. We watched them back out over the lawn, leaving muddy tire tracks on the grass Brian had mowed 2 days ago. As they drove away, the neighbor, Mrs. Gable, looked up from her gardening. She stared at us. Tara waved at her, a weak, fluttery wave. Then she turned to me. I need to sit down, she said, before I fall down. We went back inside. I locked the door. I engaged the deadbolt. I put a chair under the handle. It was irrational, but it felt necessary. We sat at the kitchen table. I made tea. Neither of us drank it. "What do we do?" Tara asked. Her anger had burned off, leaving just exhaustion. "Do I file for divorce tomorrow? Do I kick him out? He pays the mortgage, Mare. I work part-time. I can't afford this house on my own." She looked around the kitchen. "I can't lose this house. The kids. This is their home." "We will figure it out," I said. "I have savings. Not a lot, but some." "We have to be smart," Tara said. She rubbed her temples. "If I file now, if we blow this up now, Brian will panic. He'll hide money. He'll hide that account you saw." "He already hid it," I said. "But we can find it," she said. Her eyes narrowed. "You're a forensic accountant, Meredith? You find hidden money for a living." "I do." "And they have a plan," Tara said. "They are waiting until February." "Yes." "So let them wait," she said. I looked at her. "What do you mean?" "They think we're weak," Tara said. "They think we're emotional. They think if they give us a few days, we'll calm down and take them back because we're scared to be alone." "Caleb definitely thinks that," I agreed. "So we let them think it," Tara said. "We don't kick them out, not yet." "Tara, you can't live with him," I said. "Knowing what you know?" "I can," she said. Her voice was steely. "I can do anything for my children. If I kick him out now, he gets a lawyer. He fights for custody. He fights for assets. But if we wait, we gather evidence." I finished her thought. "We find the money. We document everything." "Thanksgiving," Tara said. "What?" "They had a timeline, 37 days, Thanksgiving." She looked at the calendar on her fridge. November 23rd. "We host Thanksgiving," Tara said. "Everyone will be there. Mom, Dad, Caleb's parents, Brian's parents." "Sterling," I said. "Sterling," she nodded. "If we expose them in private, they can spin it. They can lie. They can say we're crazy. But if we do it in front of everyone, if we do it in front of Sterling," I said, "Brian is disowned. He loses his trust fund. He loses his job at the bank." "Exactly," Tara said. "That is nuclear," I said. "They were going to leave me with a newborn," Tara said. "Nuclear is the only option." She reached across the table and took my hand. "Can you do it?" she asked. "Can you live with Caleb for 37 days and pretend you don't want to kill him?" I thought about Caleb's face on the porch, the way he looked at me like I was an obstacle. "I don't just want to divorce him," I said. "I want to audit him. I want to liquidate him." 37 days, Tara said. 37 days, I agreed. My phone buzzed, a text from Caleb. "Meredith, please. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. We need to talk tomorrow. I love you." I showed it to Tara. "Tell him to come home tomorrow," she said. "Tell him we need to talk about boundaries." I typed the response. "Come home tomorrow. Sleep in the guest room. We will discuss terms." I hit send. I didn't go home until after midnight. I stayed with Tara until she fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, clutching a pillow. I made sure all the doors were locked. When I finally pulled into my own driveway, the house was dark. Caleb's car wasn't there. He had made good on his promise to stay at a hotel, probably the same hotel where he took Brian. I walked into the house. It felt different. It felt like a set piece. The photos on the wall, our wedding, our trip to Hawaii, our Christmas card, looked like props. I didn't turn on the lights. I navigated by the street lights filtering through the blinds. I went straight to the home office. Caleb wasn't organized. That was my job. I paid the bills. I filed the taxes. But he had one filing cabinet that he kept locked. He said it was for client confidentiality. I had never questioned it. I respected client confidentiality. Tonight, I didn't care. I knelt in front of the metal cabinet. It was a standard, flimsy lock. I didn't have the key. Caleb kept it on his keyring. I went to the garage. I grabbed a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. I walked back to the office. I wedged the screwdriver into the gap above the lock. I hit the end with the palm of my hand. It didn't budge. I hit it with the hammer. Bang. The metal groaned. Bang. The lock twisted. Bang. The drawer popped open. I pulled it out. It wasn't client files. It was folders. Manila folders neatly labeled in Brian's handwriting. Folder 1, Seattle Real Estate. Inside were printouts of loft apartments, Zillow listings, circles around the ones with natural light and chef's kitchens. Folder 2, Legal. I opened it. My breath caught. Divorce papers, drafted but not filed. Petitioner, Caleb Whitley. Respondent, Meredith Whitley. Grounds, irreconcilable differences. He had already seen a lawyer. He had dated the draft for February 15th. Folder 3, Financial. This was the mother lode. Bank statements, not from our joint account at Chase, but from a credit union in Vancouver. Account holder, C. Whitley and B. Kessler. Account type, joint savings. I scanned the balances. March, $5,000. June, $20,000. September, $42,000. Current balance, $47,218. I flipped to the deposit slips. Cash deposits, large ones. $2,000 here, $3,000 there. And then a transfer slip from Harper College Fund, $5,000, transferred in July. I sat back on my heels, holding the paper in the dark. The only sound was the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. They weren't just leaving, they were looting us. They were stripping the copper wiring out of the walls of our marriages before burning the houses down. I took my phone out. I took photos of every single document, every page, every receipt. Then I put everything back. I bent the metal of the drawer back as best I could. I closed it. It didn't lock, but if you didn't look closely, you wouldn't notice. I stood up. I felt cold. Bone deep cold. I walked to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady now. I looked at the calendar on the wall. October was ending. November was coming. 37 days, I whispered into the darkness. Let the games begin. The smell of bacon woke me up. It was a thick, greasy scent that usually signaled a lazy Sunday morning, but today was a Wednesday, and the smell made my stomach turn over like a tumbling lock. I lay in bed for 3 minutes staring at the ceiling fan. I counted the blades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I listened to the sounds of the house, the creak of the floorboards in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator, the whistle of a kettle. Caleb was home. He had slept in the guest room as requested, a performance of contrition that I knew was as hollow as a chocolate Easter bunny. I imagined him down there, wearing his apology cardigan, the beige one I bought him 3 years ago, flipping bacon and thinking he was fixing things. I got out of bed. I brushed my teeth until my gums hurt. I put on my armor, black slacks, a silk blouse, diamond studs. I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back was pale, with dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide, but her jaw was set like a bear trap. "Showtime," I whispered. I walked into the kitchen. Caleb was there, just as I imagined. He was plating eggs. He looked up when I entered, his face arranging itself into a mask of hopeful humility. "Good morning," he said softly. "I made coffee, French press. The way you like it." I looked at the coffee. I looked at the eggs. I looked at him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the French press through the window. I wanted to ask him how he could stand there and cook breakfast in the house he was planning to sell out from under me in 4 months. Instead, I walked to the counter and poured a cup. My hand didn't shake. I was proud of that. "Thank you," I said. My voice was cool, distant. "I know you're angry," Caleb said, leaning against the island. He crossed his ankles, relaxed, casual. "I respected your space last night, but I really think we should talk about a path forward. I've been doing some reading on..." couples in crisis. Couples in crisis. He was using therapy words. He was trying to medicalize his affair, to turn his betrayal into a condition we could treat. "I have to go to work, Caleb," I said, taking a sip of coffee. It tasted bitter. "I can drive you," he offered. "We could talk on the way. I want you to know that I am committed to this, to us." I almost choked. Committed. He had a draft of a divorce petition in a locked drawer 10 feet away. He had a secret apartment listing bookmarked on his phone. "I have a client meeting," I lied. "I need to prepare in the car, alone." Caleb's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, a glitch in the software, before resetting. "Okay," he said, nodding sagely. "I understand. Boundaries. I'm respecting your boundaries, Mur. Just remember that I love you. We can get past this. It was just a stupid mistake." A mistake? Like forgetting to take out the trash. Not an 8-month systematic dismantling of 2 families. "We'll see," I said. I put the coffee cup down. I hadn't taken a bite of the eggs. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door, feeling his eyes on my back, calculating, assessing, wondering if I had bought it. My office felt like a sanctuary, but I wasn't there to work on the Henderson account. I was there because I had access to a high-speed printer and a shredder. I sat at my desk and pulled up the photos I had taken of the documents in Caleb's file cabinet, the bank statement from the credit union, Pacific Northwest Credit Union. I knew that bank. They had a branch 3 blocks from my office. I looked at the account number. I looked at the names. Caleb Whitley and Brian Kessler. I needed more than a photo. A photo could be challenged in court. A photo could be dismissed as digital manipulation. I needed an official transaction history. I needed to know exactly where that $47,000 came from. Was it just salary? Or were they liquidating other assets? I couldn't just log in. I didn't have the password, and I couldn't ask Caleb. I checked my watch. 10:15. I grabbed my purse and walked out. "Dental follow-up," I told the receptionist. She didn't even look up. The credit union was quiet, smelling of carpet cleaner and money. I walked up to the teller, a young woman with bright pink nails and a name tag that said Kayla. "Hi," I said, putting on my best frazzled professional wife face. I smoothed my hair, looked a little frantic. I am in such a bind. My husband asked me to drop off the statements for our refinance application, and I completely left the folder on the kitchen counter. He is going to kill me. Kayla smiled sympathetically. "Oh, I hate when that happens. Do you want to print a new one?" "Could you?" I asked, widening my eyes. "It would save my life. The account is under Whitley." I slid my driver's license across the counter. Kayla typed. Click, clack, click. "I see a Caleb Whitley," she said. "But I don't see you on the account, Mrs. Whitley. It's a joint account with a Brian Kessler?" My heart stopped. I knew this, of course, but hearing it out loud was a physical blow. "Right, yes," I said, laughing nervously. "It's their investment club account for the photography business. That's the one we're using for the loan qualification because it has the assets." Kayla hesitated. "Technically, since you aren't a signer—" I know, I pleaded. "But I have the same last name, and the address is the same, right? 642 Maple Drive?" I held my breath. If Caleb had used the studio address, I was dead. "Yes, that's the address," Kayla said. "Please," I said. "I just need the last 6 months of activity, just a printout. I'm not trying to withdraw anything, I just need the paper." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Honestly, if I don't get this to the broker by noon, we lose the rate lock. And Caleb has been so stressed lately." Kayla looked at my license. She looked at my desperate face. She looked at the line forming behind me. "Okay," she whispered. "Just a printout. But don't tell anyone." "You are an angel," I said. "Literal angel." The printer whirred. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. She slid a stack of warm papers across the counter. I grabbed them, mumbled a thank you, and walked out of the bank as fast as my legs could carry me without running. I got to my car and locked the doors. I flipped through the pages. July 15th. Deposit $5,000. Source: check EMI 402. Issuer: B. Kessler. August 1st. Deposit $2,000. Source: Venmo transfer. Equipment sale. And then, September 10th. Withdrawal: $500. Merchant: the Seattle Grand Hotel. I felt sick, but I also felt armed. I had the official bank stamp on these pages. This was admissible. This was real. My phone rang at 2:30. It was Tara. "Meredith?" Her voice sounded thin, reedy, like she was speaking from underwater. "Tara, what's wrong? Did Brian come back?" "No," she said. "I'm at the clinic, the OB/GYN. I was out of my chair before she finished the sentence. "I'm coming. What happened?" "I had a headache," she said, "a really bad one, and seeing spots. So I came in to check my pressure." "What is it?" I asked, grabbing my keys, ignoring the pile of work on my desk. 160/95, she whispered. "I'm on my way." I drove like a maniac. I ran 2 yellow lights. I didn't care. When I got to the clinic, they had her in a dimly lit room, hooked up to a monitor. The whoosh, whoosh, whoosh of the baby's heartbeat filled the small space. It was a fast, galloping rhythm. Tara was lying on the exam table staring at the ceiling. She looked small. "They're talking about bed rest," she said without looking at me. "If it doesn't go down, they have to admit me. Preeclampsia risk." I pulled a chair up to the bed and took her hand. It was cold and clammy. "It's the stress," I said. "It's Brian. I can't lose this baby, Mare," she said, tears leaking out of the corners of her eyes. "I can lose my husband. I can lose my house. But I can't lose her." "You won't," I said fiercely. "We are going to handle this." "How?" she asked. "Every time I look at my phone, I see his name. He keeps texting me. Thinking of you. Miss our family. It makes my blood boil." "Block him," I said, "or mute him. Let me handle the comms." "I can't," she said. "I have to play the game. Remember? 37 days. If I cut him off, he gets suspicious. He starts hiding money." She squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. "I have to let him come home," she whispered. I stared at her. "Tara, no. It's physically dangerous." "If he's in the house, I can watch him," she said. "If he's in the house, he thinks he's winning. He relaxes. And if he relaxes, he won't move that money before Thanksgiving." "Is the money worth your life?" I asked. "It's not about the money," she said. "It's about justice, and it's about making sure that when I divorce him, I have enough to take care of these 3 kids. I need that college fund back, Meredith. I need every cent." The doctor walked in then, looking stern. "Mrs. Kessler," she said, "your pressure is dropping slightly, but you are skating on thin ice. Whatever is causing you stress, you need to eliminate it, immediately." Tara looked at me. A sad, grim smile touched her lips. "I'm working on it," she told the doctor. "I have a plan." Caleb insisted on dinner. "We have to eat," he said, leaning in the doorway of my home office where I was pretending to work. "I made a reservation at Le Bouchon, your favorite." Le Bouchon, the French bistro where we had our first date, where he proposed. It was weaponized nostalgia. "I'm really tired, Caleb," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "Please," he said, "just an hour, neutral ground. I just want to reconnect. I feel like we're drifting, Mur, and it scares me. It scares me." The audacity. He was scared that his cash cow was getting suspicious, not that he was losing his wife. "Fine," I said. "An hour." The restaurant was dimly lit, smelling of garlic and butter. We sat at a corner table. Caleb ordered a bottle of Pinot Noir. He poured my glass. He looked at me with those puppy dog brown eyes that used to make my knees weak. Now, they just looked predatory. "You look beautiful," he said. "Stress looks good on you." "That's a weird thing to say," I replied, unfolding my napkin. "I just mean, you're intense lately, focused. It reminds me of when you were studying for your CPA exam. You had this fire. He reached across the table to take my hand. My skin crawled. It took a supreme effort of will not to snatch it away. I let his hand rest on mine. His palm was warm. It was the same hand that had held Brian's in Seattle. "I've been thinking," Caleb said, rubbing his thumb over my knuckles. "Maybe we should take a trip. Just us. Over Christmas. Maybe Hawaii." I stared at him. Christmas. He was planning to leave in February, so Christmas was safe. Christmas was part of the farewell tour. "Hawaii is expensive," I said. "We're trying to save, remember? You said the roof needs repairs." "We have savings," he said quickly, "and I'm expecting a big bonus this year. I think we deserve it, a fresh start." "A fresh start," I echoed. "Yeah, put this whole misunderstanding behind us." "Is that what it is?" I asked, looking him dead in the eye. "A misunderstanding? You were in a dark room with my brother-in-law, Caleb. You had a burner phone." Caleb sighed, withdrawing his hand to pick up his wine. He swirled the liquid, watching the legs run down the glass. "I was going through a thing," he said. "A crisis of confidence. Brian was there." He listened. It got out of hand emotionally, but we never crossed the physical line, Meredith. You have to believe that. I remembered the text. "Need your hands on me." I took a sip of my water. "I want to believe you," I lied, "but it's hard." "I know," he said soothingly. "Trust takes time to rebuild. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm 100% in this marriage." I looked at the way he held his wine glass. Confident, relaxed. He thought he was nailing this performance. He thought I was the dutiful, gullible wife who just needed a little reassurance. "Okay," I said softly. "Okay, Caleb." He smiled, a genuine, relieved smile. "That's my girl. Now try the escargot. It's delicious." I ate the snail. It tasted like rubber and garlic. I chewed and swallowed, thinking about the $47,000, and smiled back. 2 days later, I was walking to my car after work. The parking garage was dark, the concrete echoing with the sound of distant traffic. "Meredith!" I jumped, dropping my keys. Brian stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. He looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes rumpled. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in 3 days. "Jesus, Brian!" I shouted, pressing my hand to my chest. "Are you stalking me?" "I needed to catch you alone," he said, his voice jittery. He took a step toward me. "Tara won't talk to me. She's letting me sleep in the guest room, but she won't talk to me. She treats me like a ghost." "You are a ghost," I said, bending down to pick up my keys. I kept my phone in my other hand. I double-tapped the screen to wake it up. I swiped to the voice memo app. I hit record. "I need you to help me," Brian said. "You have influence with her. Tell her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her it's over with Caleb." "Is it?" I asked. "Because you two seemed pretty cozy on the porch." "I cut him off," Brian said. "I swear. I blocked his number. I told him we can't do this anymore." "You blocked him?" I asked. "So the plan is off? Seattle is off?" Brian flinched. He looked around the empty garage. "There was no plan," he stammered. "That was just fantasy talk, role play. It wasn't real." "The bank account is real," I said. "The $47,000 is real?" Brian went dead silent. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. How do you know about the amount?" he whispered. "I know everything, Brian," I said, stepping closer to him. "I know about the college fund. I know about the stroller money. I know you stole $12,000 from your own daughter." Brian grabbed his hair, pulling at it. "It wasn't stealing. I was going to pay it back. Once we got settled, once the business took off." "What business?" "We were going to open a studio," he confessed, the words spilling out in a rush of panic. "In Seattle. High-end portraits. We needed capital. I was just borrowing it." You were borrowing it to run away from your pregnant wife, I said. I was suffocating, he shouted. The sound echoed off the concrete walls. Do you know what it's like? The pressure, Sterling breathing down my neck at the bank, Tara needing everything to be perfect. I just wanted to breathe. So you decided to suffocate your family instead, I said. Please, he said, tears starting to stream down his face. Please don't tell Sterling. He'll destroy me. He'll take the kids. Just give me a chance to fix it. I'll put the money back, I promise. You don't have $12,000, Brian, I said. I'll find it. I'll sell the car. I'll do anything. Just help me with Tara, please. I looked at him, a weeping, pathetic man in a parking garage. I felt a flicker of pity, instantly extinguished by the memory of Tara in the clinic with the blood pressure cuff on her arm. Tara is making her own decisions, I said. I can't help you. I turned and unlocked my car. Meredith, he called out as I got in. Meredith, please. I slammed the door and locked it. I watched him in the rearview mirror as I drove away. He was slumped against the pillar, head in his hands. I stopped the recording. 3 minutes and 12 seconds of confession. Gotcha, I whispered. Saturday lunch with Evelyn, Caleb's mother, was a monthly ritual that I usually endured with wine and dissociation. Today I was sober and hyper-alert. We were at a cafe in the posh part of town. Evelyn was wearing Chanel and a look of permanent disapproval. You look tired, dear, she said, stabbing a cherry tomato with aggressive precision. Are you working those long hours again? I told Caleb a wife shouldn't be married to her job. It's audit season, Evelyn, I said. It's busy. Well, she sighed. Caleb seems stressed, too. He called me yesterday, sounded very down. He said things have been tense at home. She looked at me over her reading glasses. The implication was clear. You are failing him. We're working through some things, I said neutrally. You know, Evelyn said, leaning in conspiratorially, men need to feel admired. They need a soft place to land. Caleb is sensitive. He always has been. If he feels like he's competing with your spreadsheets for attention, he's going to withdraw. I almost laughed. Withdraw? He wasn't withdrawing. He was engaging. Just not with me. I think Caleb is finding plenty of admiration, I said, taking a bite of my kale salad. What does that mean? Evelyn frowned. It means he has a lot of hobbies now, I said. He's very active. Well, good, Evelyn said, missing the subtext entirely. But you should be active with him. You know, his father and I never spent a night apart in 40 years. That's the secret. Total devotion. She paused, dabbing her mouth with a linen napkin. I just worry, she continued. If you push him away too much, he might make foolish choices. Not that he would ever stray, of course. He's a good boy, raised in the church. But loneliness makes people do strange things. He's a good boy. I looked at this woman who thought she knew her son, who thought his biggest flaw was being sensitive. She had no idea he was currently sleeping in her guest room because I had caught him planning to abandon her future grandchildren. You're right, Evelyn, I said, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. Loneliness is a dangerous thing, but don't worry, we have a plan. By Thanksgiving, everything will be exactly where it needs to be. Good, she said, patting my hand. I knew you were smart, just try to be softer, Meredith. For him. I'll be soft, I promised. Soft as a pillow. A pillow over the face, I thought, and took another sip of iced tea. I waited until Caleb was in the shower. I knew his routine. He took exactly 12 minutes. He used the fancy exfoliating scrub I bought him last Christmas, scrubbing away his sins with apricot kernels. I sat on the floor of the living room, my laptop balancing precariously on my knees. The blue light of the screen was the only illumination. I felt like a burglar in my own home. I needed into the cloud. We shared an account, theoretically, but Caleb had changed the password 3 months ago. Security breach at the provider, he had told me. I updated it to something super secure. I'll write it down for you. He never wrote it down. I typed in the first guess, Caleb Meredith 2059. Incorrect password. I tried his mother's maiden name. Robinson, 80. Incorrect password. My heart was thumping a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The water in the bathroom was still running, a steady hiss that masked the sound of my typing. I had maybe 8 minutes left. Think, Meredith. Think like a liar. He wouldn't use something random. He was arrogant, but he was lazy. He reused patterns. The code for the studio was Brian's birthday. I typed in Brian Kessler 3U. Incorrect password. I typed in Seattle Dream. Incorrect password. Sweat prickled on my hairline. I was locked out of my own digital life. This was the hard way. There was no hacker friend to call. There was just me and a text box that mocked me. Then I remembered the boat photo, the one on his phone, the name of the boat they were on. I had zoomed in on the life preserver in the background when I was in the Target parking lot. The Wanderlust. I typed in Wanderlust 24. The screen blinked, a little spinning wheel. Access granted. I let out a breath that was half sob. I clicked on the Drive icon. The main folders were innocent enough. Taxes, house deeds, recipes. I went to the trash bin. Caleb thought dragging a file to the trash was deleting it. He forgot you had to empty the trash. I opened it. It was full. Hundreds of files, photos, PDFs. I clicked on a PDF titled Q3 Expenses. It wasn't a spreadsheet, it was a brochure. The Lofts at Pike Place. I opened another. Design Inspo Jaepi. It was a mood board. Mid-century modern furniture. A layout for a studio apartment. And there, in the corner, a sticky note graphic with text. Brian's reading nook. Needs good light. I stared at the screen. They weren't just sleeping together. They were nesting. They were picking out throw pillows for a life that didn't include me. The shower turned off. Panic, cold and sharp, flooded my veins. I closed the browser, I cleared the history, I shut the laptop. By the time Caleb walked into the living room, towel drying his hair, looking fresh and wholesome, I was sitting on the couch reading a magazine. My heart was beating so hard I thought he could hear it from across the room. "Hey," he said, smiling that boyish smile. "You're up late. Come to bed." "In a minute," I said, not looking up. "Just finishing an article." "Don't stay up too long," he said, kissing the top of my head. "I miss you." He smelled like apricots and lies. The next day, I met Tara at a park halfway between our houses. It was raining, a relentless gray drizzle that soaked everything. We sat in my car, the heater blasting, looking at the printouts I had smuggled out of the house. "Look at this," I said, handing her the floor plan I had recovered from the trash folder. Tara took it. Her hands were swollen. Her rings were on a chain around her neck now. "Unit 402, she read. "Seattle." "Look at the second bedroom," I said. She squinted. "It says, studio, guest." "No," I said. "Look closer, the note in the margin." She brought the paper up to her nose. "Ideally soundproofed," she read. Then she looked at me, confusion clouding her eyes. "Why do they need a soundproof room?" "For the arguments," I said grimly. "Or maybe for the peace and quiet they think they deserve." Tara flipped the page. It was a budget breakdown. Rent, $3,200. Utilities, $400. Legal retainer, $5,000. "Legal retainer," Tara whispered. "That's for the divorces." "They budgeted for our destruction," I said. "It's a line item, like groceries or internet." Tara crumpled the paper in her fist. The sound was loud in the small car. "He told me he couldn't afford a new crib," she said. Her voice was shaking. "He told me we had to use the one from Mason, the one with the teeth marks on the rail. He said money was tight." He lied, I said. He's planning to spend $5,000 to divorce me, she said, but he won't spend $300 for his daughter to have a safe place to sleep. She started to cry, silent, hot tears that ran down her cheeks. I hate him, she whispered. Meredith, I don't just want to leave him. I want to ruin him. We will, I said. We have the PowerPoint, we have the bank records, we have the floor plans. It's not enough, she said, wiping her face aggressively. I want him to feel it. I want him to be humiliated. 33 days, I said. Thanksgiving is in 33 days. It feels like a lifetime, she said. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Tara again. This time she wasn't crying. She was hyperventilating. I'm at Babies R Us, she gasped. Tara, breathe. What happened? I tried to buy the car seat, she said. The infant carrier, the one we need to leave the hospital. It was $200, Meredith. $200. I closed my eyes. I knew what was coming. The card declined, she said. The joint debit card, the one linked to his paycheck. Did you try it again? 3 times, she said. The cashier looked at me like I was garbage, a pregnant woman who can't pay for a car seat. There was a line behind me. I'm transferring you money right now, I said, already logging into my banking app. Use your personal card. That's not the point, she shouted, and I heard people in the background murmur. She lowered her voice. I called the bank, Mer. I called the automated line. And? Insufficient funds, she said. The balance is $12. Where did it go? I asked, though I already knew. There was a transaction yesterday, she said. Posted last night. B&H photo video, New York. How much? $2,400. A camera lens, a telephoto lens, probably the one Caleb had been drooling over in a magazine months ago. He bought a lens, I said, my voice cold, with the car seat money. He bought a toy, Tara corrected. He left his wife and unborn child with $12 so he could buy a toy for his boyfriend. Go home, I said. Don't buy the seat. Leave the cart. Go home and sit on the couch and do not say a word to him. If I see him, I'm going to kill him, she said. No, I said. If you kill him, he wins. He becomes the victim. We need him alive for Thanksgiving. We need him to sit at that table and eat turkey while his father watches the video of where that money went. I can't look at him, she sobbed. You have to, I said. Channel it. Feed the PowerPoint. Sunday afternoon. Caleb was watching football. He thought I was at a book club. I was at Tara's house. Brian was golfing, which we knew meant he was meeting Caleb later, probably at a park since they had lost the studio. We were in the dining room, the blinds drawn. Tara's laptop was open. We were building the weapon. Slide 1, Tara said. Her voice was steady, professional. She was a graphic designer, and she was treating this like the most important pitch of her career. Title slide, A Love Story. Too subtle, I asked. No, she said. We want them to think it's a baby video. We want the awe factor before the knife twists. Okay, slide 2. She clicked. A screenshot of the text message. Need your hands on me. I cropped it, she said, so you can see the timestamp. Tuesday, 2:14 p.m. Good. Slide 3, she said. The bank statement. The transfer of the college fund. She had highlighted the line item in red. I added a caption. She said, Harper's future versus Brian's weekend. It was brutal. It was perfect. Slide 4, she said. The floor plan of the Seattle apartment. I want to add music, she said, for the transition. What song? Something instrumental, she said. Something that sounds like a wedding march, but distorted. Let's stick to silence, I said. The silence will be louder. We worked for 3 hours. We scanned receipts. We organized the timeline. We cross-referenced the dates of their business trips with the hotel charges. It was a masterpiece of forensic accounting and graphic design. What about the end? I asked. How do we end it? Tara clicked to the final slide. It was a split screen. On the left, a photo of the ultrasound. The baby girl, Ruby. On the right, the draft of the divorce petition Caleb had written. "The choice," the caption read. I felt a chill go down my spine. "It's devastating," I said. "It needs to be," Tara said. "I want Sterling to see exactly what his son is. I want there to be no room for misunderstandings. I want scorched earth." She closed the laptop. 30 days, she said. Tuesday evening, I was chopping vegetables for a stir-fry. Caleb was sitting at the island sipping wine, watching me. "You're tense," he said. "Your shoulders are up to your ears." "Work is stressful," I said. "Tax season prep." "You work too hard," he said. "You need to relax. Maybe I can give you a massage later." The thought of his hands on me made me want to vomit into the wok. "Maybe," I said. My phone was on the counter, halfway between us. It buzzed. I froze. I had forgotten to flip it over. The screen lit up. A preview of a text message appeared. "Tara, I put the Seattle lease in slide 4. It looks blurry. Can you send the original PDF?" The text was visible, clear as day. Seattle lease. Slide 4. Caleb looked at the phone. Time stopped. The universe compressed into the 6 inches between his hand and my device. "Who's texting you this late?" he asked, reaching for it. "It's Margaret," I said, dropping the knife. It clattered loudly against the cutting board. The noise startled him. His hand paused. I lunged. I grabbed the phone, clutching it to my chest. "I told her I wasn't available," I said breathlessly. "She keeps pushing for the Henderson file. I need to set boundaries." Caleb narrowed his eyes. He looked at the phone against my chest. He looked at my face, which was flushed with adrenaline. "You jumped," he said. "You startled me. You grabbed that phone like it was a bomb, Meredith." "I'm just tired of work," I lied. "I don't want to think about leases and files." "Leases?" he asked. My blood ran cold. He had seen a word. "The Henderson lease," I stammered. "Commercial real estate audit. It's a nightmare." Caleb stared at me. He swirled his wine. He was calculating. He was wondering if I was lying, but his ego wouldn't let him believe I knew. His ego told him he was smarter than me. "You're acting weird," he said finally. Is there someone else, Meredith?" I almost laughed. The projection was textbook. "Someone else?" I asked. "You think I'm having an affair?" "You're distant," he said. "You're secretive with your phone. You're working late. It fits the profile." "I am not having an affair, Caleb," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "I honor my vows." "Even the ones about being honest." He flinched. "Just a little." "Okay," he said. "I believe you. I'm just insecure. I love you so much, I get jealous." "Don't be jealous," I said, turning back to the vegetables so he wouldn't see the hatred in my eyes. "You have nothing to worry about. I'm right here." "For 30 more days," I added silently. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I was at my office. The intercom buzzed. "Meredith, Mr. Kessler is here to see you." My stomach dropped. Mr. Kessler, Sterling, Brian's father, the patriarch of the family, a man who owned half the commercial real estate in Portland and had a moral code that was Old Testament strict. "Send him in," I said. Sterling walked in. He was a large man wearing a suit that cost more than my car. He filled the room with the scent of expensive tobacco and authority. "Meredith," he said, nodding. He didn't smile. Sterling rarely smiled. "Sterling," I said, standing up. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "I was in the building," he said, "checking on the 4th-floor tenants. Thought I'd stop by." He sat in the chair opposite my desk. He looked at me with eyes that were sharp, intelligent, and terrifyingly perceptive. "How are things?" he asked. "Busy," I said. "Good." "And the family?" he asked. "How is Tara?" "She's tired," I said. "The pregnancy is hard." "And Brian?" The question hung in the air. Sterling knew something. He always knew something. He had instincts like a bloodhound. "Brian is excited," I lied. "He's working hard." Sterling frowned. He leaned forward, resting his hands on his cane. "Is he?" he asked. Because I hear things, Meredith. I hear he's distracted at the bank. I hear he's missing meetings. I hear he's taking long lunches. I felt the trap opening. If I told him now, if I said, yes, he's cheating, Sterling would fix it. He would crush Brian, yes, but he would do it quietly. He would pay everyone off. He would bury the scandal. There would be no public execution, no slideshow, no justice for Tara's humiliation. I had to protect the villain to ensure his destruction. He's just stressed about the baby, I said. Third child. It's a lot of pressure. He's trying to be a good provider. Sterling studied my face. I held his gaze. I channeled my inner sociopath. He's a weak man, Sterling said suddenly. My son. He has always been weak. He needs a strong woman to keep him in line. Tara is a good woman. She is, I agreed. Make sure he doesn't ruin it, Sterling said. If he steps out of line, if he embarrasses this family... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I'll keep an eye on him, I promised. Good. Sterling stood up. We'll see you at Thanksgiving. Edith tells me you're bringing the cranberry sauce. Wouldn't miss it for the world, I said. He walked out. I sank back into my chair. My hands were shaking. I had just lied to the most powerful man I knew to protect the man I hated most. 14 days, I whispered. Just 14 more days. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I packed my life into 2 suitcases while Caleb was at the gym. It was a strange, surgical procedure. I didn't pack everything. I left the sweater he liked. I left the jewelry he had given me. I packed only what was mine, the cashmere throw I bought with my first bonus, my vintage calculator collection, my comfortable jeans, and my passport. I hid the bags in the trunk of my car under a blanket. When Caleb came home, he was whistling. He was wearing a sweatband and looked annoyingly healthy, flushed with endorphins and the arrogance of a man who thinks he has gotten away with murder. Smells good, he said, walking into the kitchen where I was aggressively chopping celery for the stuffing. Is that the sage sausage? It is, I said. For the family recipe. He came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. I froze. I held the knife very still. I was thinking, he murmured into my neck. Next year we should host. We can get a bigger table. Maybe invite Brian and Tara over for a football weekend. We should really try to bond with them more. I stared at the pile of chopped celery. Bond with them. He was talking about a future that he had already paid a $5,000 retainer to destroy. He was talking about hosting dinners in a house he planned to sell. That sounds lovely, I said, my voice flat. Next year will be very different. It will, he agreed, squeezing me tight. It's going to be our best year yet. I waited until he let go and walked to the fridge. Then I looked at the knife in my hand. It was sharp enough to slice through bone, but a PowerPoint presentation was sharper. Thanksgiving morning was cold and bright, the kind of November day that looked like a postcard but felt like a slap in the face. The drive to Sterling and Edith's estate, because you couldn't call that monstrosity a house, took 45 minutes. Caleb drove. He had his hand on my thigh. He was talking about interest rates and the pharmaceutical supply chain. I was counting telephone poles. 1, 2, 3. You're quiet today, he noted, glancing at me. Nervous about the turkey? Just thinking, I said. About what? Gratitude, I lied. I'm thinking about how much the truth matters. Caleb laughed. That's deep, babe. But yeah, truth is good. He didn't know the truth was currently sitting in my purse on a silver USB drive shaped like a robot. I had bought it specifically because it looked innocent. It looked like a toy. We pulled up to the gate. Sterling's house loomed ahead, a brick fortress with white pillars and a driveway filled with luxury cars. I saw Brian's SUV parked near the fountain. It looked dirty next to the polished Mercedes and Lexuses of the extended family. Game time, Caleb said, checking his hair in the rearview mirror. Let's go be the perfect couple. After you, I said. The house smelled of wealth and roasting meat. It was a suffocating perfume of expensive candles, old wood, and turkey grease. There were 30 people in the great room. Aunts with too much hairspray, uncles with opinions on the economy, cousins running around with sticky hands, and there was the quartet of doom. Brian was by the fireplace holding a scotch. He looked terrible. His suit hung off him loosely, and his eyes were darting around the room like a trapped animal. When he saw Caleb, his face did a complicated spasm of relief and panic. Tara was sitting on the velvet settee, holding court. She looked magnificent and terrifying. Her pregnancy was prominent now, a hard curve under her dress. She was smiling at Sterling, who was leaning over her, listening intently. Meredith! Edith, my mother-in-law, descended on me in a cloud of lavender. You made it, and you brought the cranberry sauce. Homemade, I said, handing her the Tupperware. It's very tart this year. Good, she said. Life needs a little tartness. I walked over to Tara. She didn't look at me. She kept her eyes on Sterling. How are we? I whispered, leaning down to kiss her cheek. My blood pressure is 140/90, she whispered back, barely moving her lips. I took an extra beta blocker. The laptop is under the couch. Is the HDMI cable ready? Connected to the 60-inch hidden behind the painting, she said. Vernon thinks we're showing a sonogram montage. Good. I straightened up. I looked across the room. Caleb and Brian had found each other. They were standing near the bar, shoulders touching, laughing a little too loudly at something an uncle had said. They looked safe. They looked comfortable. They thought they had survived the storm. I felt a cold, hard smile touch my lips. The eye of the hurricane is always calmest right before the house gets ripped off the foundation. Dinner was served at 2:00. We sat at the long mahogany table, set with the good china that Edith only brought out for funerals and federal holidays. I was seated next to Caleb. Tara was across from us next to Brian. Sterling sat at the head of the table, carving the turkey with a terrifying electric knife that buzzed like a chainsaw. I would like to propose a toast, Sterling boomed, raising his wine glass. The table went silent. To family, he said. In a world that is falling apart, this table remains strong. We honor our commitments. We honor our blood. To the future generation. He nodded at Tara's belly. To family, everyone echoed. To family, Brian squeaked. His voice cracked. We ate. I forced down turkey that tasted like sawdust. I watched Caleb eat. He ate with gusto. He ate like a man who didn't have a care in the world. So, Brian, Uncle Jerry shouted from the end of the table, how's the bank? Sterling tells me you're up for a promotion. Brian choked on a dinner roll. It's good, busy. The market is volatile. Volatility creates opportunity, Caleb interjected smoothly, leaning forward. That's what I always say. You have to be ready to pivot. I looked at Tara. She was sawing at her turkey with a steak knife. Her knuckles were white. Speaking of pivots, Caleb continued, warming to his audience, Meredith and I were talking about maybe doing a big trip next year, maybe Italy, or back to Seattle. We love the Pacific Northwest. Tara dropped her fork. It clattered loudly against the china. Seattle is beautiful, Tara said, her voice ice cold. Isn't it, Brian? Brian looked at her, terrified. Yeah, it's rainy. Lots of hidden gems in Seattle, I added, taking a sip of water. Great apartments, soundproof rooms. Caleb froze mid-chew. He looked at me. His eyes narrowed slightly, but he dismissed it. He couldn't imagine I would be that bold. Dessert, Edith announced, clapping her hands. We have pumpkin, pecan, and apple. And a surprise, Tara said, standing up. A surprise? Edith clapped her hands again. Oh, I love surprises. Is it the name? Did you pick a name for the baby? Something like that, Tara said. She walked to the living room. Everyone, if you could join us in the great room, we put together a little video, a celebration of where we are headed. The family shuffled into the living room, groaning with fullness, carrying plates of pie. Sterling took his armchair. The throne. Edith perched on the ottoman. Caleb stood behind me, resting his hands on my shoulders. I could feel the heat of his palms. "This is nice," he whispered. Tara finally doing something nice. "Just wait," I whispered back. Tara pulled the laptop out from under the couch. She plugged it in. The large television screen flickered to life. "Vernon, hit the lights," Tara commanded. The room went dim. "This presentation," Tara said, her voice trembling slightly, then firming up, "is dedicated to the two men who made this possible, my husband, Brian, and my brother-in-law, Caleb." "Hear, hear," Uncle Jerry shouted. Brian smiled weakly. Caleb looked preened. "We call this—" Tara clicked the remote. Slide 1 appeared. Huge black letters on a white background. The exit strategy, a cost-benefit analysis of betrayal. The room went silent. Not the polite silence of a toast, but the confused, heavy silence of a car crash. "What is this?" Edith asked. "Is this a joke?" Tara clicked. Slide 2. The text messages, blown up to 40-point font. Caleb, "Almost there. Traffic is hell. Need your hands on me." Brian, "Red light is on. Don't keep me waiting." Date, October 17th. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. I felt Caleb's hands snatch away from my shoulders as if I were on fire. "Tara, stop," Brian said. His voice was a high, thin wail. "Turn it off." "Sit down, Brian," Sterling roared from his chair. "Let her play it." Tara clicked. Slide 3. The photos. The selfie in the hiking gear. The photo of them in the hotel robes, the receipt from the hotel. The Seattle Grand King Suite, 500 per night. "Oh my God," Caleb's mother whispered. "Oh my dear God." "That's photoshopped," Caleb shouted. He lunged toward the TV. "It's fake. She's crazy." "Don't you touch that screen," Vernon said. Caleb's father stood up, blocking his path. Vernon was 60, but he was a bricklayer by trade. He looked like he wanted to dismantle his son. Tara clicked. Slide 4. The financial audit. The theft. On the left, a bank transfer showing $5,000 leaving the Harper College Fund. On the right, a transaction for camera lens, B&H photo, for $2,400. Caption: Car seat fund declined on Tuesday. Insufficient funds. "You stole from the baby?" Aunt Linda screamed. She actually screamed. "You stole from Harper?" Sterling stood up. He rose slowly like a mountain unearthing itself. His face was a color I had never seen on a human being, a deep, bruised purple. "Brian," Sterling said. His voice wasn't loud. It was terrifyingly quiet. "Did you empty the college fund?" Brian was weeping now. He was curled in a ball on the velvet settee. "I was going to pay it back. It was a loan. We were going to open a studio." Tara clicked. The final slide. Slide 5. The Seattle apartment lease. The date, February 15th. The plan, abandonment. Target date, 12 days post-birth. The room erupted. It was absolute chaos. Edith was sobbing. Uncle Jerry was yelling obscenities. I turned to Caleb. He was backed against the wall, looking at the screen with a mixture of horror and fury. He looked at me. "You knew," he hissed. "You sat there eating turkey and you knew." "I knew for 37 days, I said calmly. "I knew when you bought the wine. I knew when you whistled in the kitchen. I knew when you kissed me goodbye this morning." "You're a psycho," he spat. "I'm an accountant," I corrected, "and your books didn't balance." "Get out," Sterling said. The room quieted. Sterling pointed a shaking finger at Brian, then at Caleb. "Get out of my house, both of you." "Dad, please," Brian sobbed. "You are not my son," Sterling said. "My son would not steal from his child. My son would not abandon his pregnant wife." You are fired, Brian. Do not show your face at the bank on Monday. Security will mail you your box. Sterling, that's too harsh. Caleb tried to intervene. This is a family matter. And you. Vernon stepped forward, grabbing Caleb by the collar of his expensive shirt. You dragged him into this. You're the older one. You're the leader. I didn't. Get out! Vernon shoved him toward the door. Get out before I forget I'm a Christian man. They ran. They actually ran. 2 grown men fleeing the scene of their own destruction, leaving behind 30 stunned relatives and half-eaten pumpkin pie. When the front door slammed, the silence returned. Tara slumped back on the couch. Sterling walked over to her. He knelt down, his expensive suit knees hitting the floor. He took her hand. You and the children, he said, his voice shaking, will want for nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. I will ruin him for this. Tara looked at me. She smiled. It was a tired, broken, beautiful smile. Happy Thanksgiving, she whispered. The divorce papers were signed on a Tuesday in March. It was raining. I sat across the table from Caleb in a mediation room that smelled of stale coffee. He looked thinner. His suit was wrinkled. He was living in a studio apartment in Gresham next to a train track. I want half the house, he said sullenly. You get nothing, my lawyer said. She slid a piece of paper across the table. This is a forensic accounting of the assets you hid. $47,000, plus the $12,000 taken from the niece, plus the debts incurred on the joint cards for your travel. The judge, a woman with eyes like flint, had already reviewed the PowerPoint. She was not amused. Caleb signed. He didn't look at me. I walked out of the courthouse, a free woman. I walked to my car, where Tara was waiting. Tara had given birth to Ruby on schedule. She was a beautiful, screaming bundle of chaos. Brian had not been in the delivery room. Sterling had hired private security to ensure he didn't make it past the lobby. Brian was currently working as a property manager for a rundown complex in Beaverton. Sterling had blacklisted him from every bank in the state. He was living in a 1-bedroom apartment. He saw the kids every other weekend, supervised by his mother. Did he sign? Tara asked as I got in the car. He signed, I said. It's done. Good, she said. Sterling just transferred the college money back, plus interest. He called it the asshole tax. I laughed. It felt good to laugh. It felt light. We drove to the old photography studio on 10th Avenue. The for lease sign was gone. It was being turned into a yoga studio. We survived, Tara said, looking at the building. We did more than survive, I said. We audited them. I put the car in gear and drove away. I didn't look back. I had a date with a bottle of champagne and a very quiet, very empty, very wonderful house. And for the first time in a year, the numbers in my life finally balanced perfectly. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.